1001st Hypertower is a very interesting game. It describes itself as a roguelite FPS in an Arabian cyberpunk world where you face very fast vertical gameplay and cunning enemies on your way to the top. You have to climb different districts of procedurally generated tower. Every structure is completely destructible. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I think I have to disclose here that I got a key for free from the developer. Normally, early access investigation doesn't require me to play the game, but if a dev gives me a key, I'm willing to try it out. The first thing we should check out is the Steam page. We have an overall positive review status and 10 reviews in total. I always like to double check by going down to the review section and then selecting graph and then selecting everything. There it tells me that there are 16 reviews in total. Still positive, but it's still 6 more than shown in the description box. I'm not really sure why this happens, and it's not really alarming. Sometimes Steam just shows stuff that doesn't make sense. I'm pretty sure there's no problem here, and even though there are negative reviews as well as positive ones, overall people seem to enjoy the game. It still worries me a little bit because I think this sends the wrong signals. People that are actually careful towards early access titles would definitely look at that and think to themselves that the dev just deleted some reviews. It didn't, by the way, I'm pretty sure of it. The reviews seem to come from real people as well, just because they are vastly different and there are also negative reviews. You can never be sure, but it seems, as far as I can see, everything to be real. Normally, I would take a look at a website next. 1001st Hypertower doesn't have a website, which is fine. Games or developers don't need websites, but there is no Discord or Twitter as well, and that's always a bad thing. It's me, editing guy, that edits this thing. So the dev has a Twitter, but it's not linked on the Steam page, but in the game itself. That's good. It's always good. Yeah, that's all. Move on. For those who listen to me regularly, they probably know my position on it, but it basically comes down to your game is not going to sell itself, marketing will. And as an indie developer, if you don't have one social media or any contact information, people are probably going to shy away from your game. You, as an indie developer, you are not only the developer. You are the financial guy, the law guy, the CEO, and the marketing guy in one. Like a YouTuber or content creator, you have to be an expert in many areas to go anywhere. And even if you do everything correctly, you might still fail. Anyway, since there's no website or social media, I will move on to the update and discussion tab. The update tab looks pretty good. There are monthly updates. Recently, things have calmed down, and I would wish for weekly updates, but it's pretty good so far. You as a developer might think I should only update this tab when I have something to show, but it doesn't need to be a game update. It can be something else. It just needs to be an update from the dev, like, hey guys, I'm still working on the game. Right now I'm focusing on polishing the polygraphics. Here's a picture, have fun with the game. Something that shows that the heart of the project is still beating. Basically like a heartbeat. I think that's all people want and need for them to trust in your project and be reassured that the money and the time they invested in the project is not going to be in vain. 1001st Hypertower looks pretty good so far. If there is no update in the near future, I would start worrying, but so far it looks pretty good. The discussion tab looks also pretty good. The dev seems to answer to every discussion thread, and now and again people seem to post something. The last thread was open in the 18th of June. There's no answer there yet. It is a little bit worrying. I expect answers in 2 to 3 work days, but we never know what is happening in the developer's life. He might be sick or working on other things. I would say wait 2 weeks and then you can start to worry. If you want to go through the process yourself, you should. If you're thinking about buying an early access game, just do what I did and decide upon the information you gather. The last step to confirm everything, though, is always contact the developer if possible. And so I did. Enjoyed the interview. So, first question then. Please tell us who you are basically again, and what you do, and what 1001st Hypertower is. I think it's 1001st, not 1001st Street.
Yep, you're right. So my name is Pasha. I'm making a game called 1001st Hyper Tower. It was a concept of Arabian sci-fi game, Arabian sci-fi title. And the first part of the name, 1001st, is referring to the Arabian Nights
Mm-hmm.
in some Arabian tales and so on. And the second part, Hyper, is referring to some sci-fi setting, some modern technology, because I think that there are very few titles about modern Middle East,
Yeah.
and I think this is kind of problem because all the taboos about Middle East, and that culture is first step to trying to figure out and change people's opinion
Yeah.
about it. I'm doing very little about it because I don't have many media or some super mega special skills that can motivate people. But this is my little part
Yeah.
in this. And Tower is about the location of this game. It's about a huge tower in the center of a desert, which we are climbing. And every time we fall or get defeated, we start it all again, like in roguelites or roguelikes, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned this culture thing that not many games touch on Arabian culture, and I see a lot of, like, for example, a lot of Japanese or Asian culture mixed into games, but never like African or Arabian or even South American. There's very few games that mix those cultures. I agree.
I think that the process is started with the musicians.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you look at some Japanese wave and so on, the first of all is the music clips, video clips, and the later is some films, anime,
Yeah.
and so on. And the Arabian modern electronic music is very popular today.
Yeah. That's right.
There are a lot of artists or musicians that makes some Muslim gays and like Exeter Arab or other bands. When I searched the soundtrack, I faced some guys from Turkey, from England, from Berlin, from St. Petersburg, and they all fascinated by the fusion of some traditional Muslim music and some new instruments and waves and the synergy of the types.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
this is pretty cool. And I think that music is the most avant-garde part of media. And if the music starts analyzing some culture or like that, then other sides of media content are following the music trends.
Yeah.
So it's like divination or something like that.
Yeah, like a synergy. Yep, and
Yeah.
one of the things I noticed was this game reminded me a lot of Bunker Punks. First of all, do you know the game Bunker Punks by any chance?
Oh,
And
I see them.
yeah,
Uh, I don't know. I don't play it much, but it's roguelike shooter as
yeah,
well. And I don't know. I've noticed some because it's very similar genre.
yeah, that's true.
I have noticed every thing that makes me sad. So I've tried to find something bad in it just because they're the same genre.
Yeah,
So it's a very cool game, but um, just because I'm making something same, I have to find something that I don't like in that kind of
yeah.
games.
I think the main difference was the movement and how your movement is basically vertical, and all the other shooters, roguelike shooters, the movement is very horizontal. And in the movement in 1001st Hypertower is very vertical. So you're constantly shooting up and down. That's what I noticed from the gameplay.
Um, Thank you. I'm tried to make it dramatic from the beginning. So the very geometry, the very architecture of the levels is somehow dramatic. So if you look at them, you start feel something about climbing and about fighting your destiny from the first look.
Yeah.
It's not very good in Hypertower, but I've tried to make it. And the other game, which is much similar to it, is Eldritch. It's not as dynamic. It's more like a horror shooter, a
Mm-hmm.
horror first-person shooter about some Lovecraft worlds.
Yeah.
But it has the same procedural generator in a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to move deeper and deeper in the dungeon, and the mazes are pretty amazing.
Okay. I should
So
check out. I should check out Eldritch. So, well,
it's on Steam like for 5 years or maybe more. It's
okay.
very popular, guys.
Okay. Yeah. So
So in hyper, yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, as far as I know,
Sorry.
the game was in early access, but is in early access now. But it wasn't in early access. So,
Oh,
is this
uh,
like just a misunderstanding, or was it always intended to be in early access?
what Hypertower
Yeah.
or the Eldritch?
No, Hypertower.
Hypertower will be in early access till the end of July.
Okay. End
So
of
it's
July.
about 2 months in Alexis. It already have about 3 quarters of content, and a lot of polishing is ahead to make it all more juicy and stuff. And
Yeah.
I also hope to add some scenario and cinematics
Ah,
in it.
okay.
And
That's always good.
in a very minimalistic manner, but I have a theory about minimalism. So if the players, if players see very blocky terrain, they already associate it with Minecraft and so on, and they feel about it like something like prototype or boxy in a boxy manner. So like it's not complete. But if they first look at some blocky guys, maybe low poly guys, so if they look at people
Yeah.
in the same art style, they start to empathize with them. They start to feel something to them, and they start to feel something about the whole world, about the whole geometry, the same manner as they feel into the characters. So the characters is key to understand the visual language of the game,
Mm-hmm.
because we it's more easier to feel something to the characters than to the blocky walls and some minimalistic objects.
Yeah. I saw the alpha footage or like testing footage and compared them to to a little bit later, like 4 updates later, and you can see the difference. You can see the one is very rough. It looks like it looks like prototype, and the other one looks I could play that because I'm of the school of thought that basically says I don't care about graphics as long as the gameplay is good. So I'm a very stout proponent of give me good gameplay. We can talk about graphics later. If all your game is graphics, which is basically almost every AAA game nowadays, then I'm not interested much. The gameplay has been done to death, and if you can bring something new or bring something very much polished in the gameplay, a part of the game, then I'm happy. Otherwise, I'm very, very unhappy. Graphics is the last thing I will look at. Graphics is for me like the paint, the paint of a
Yeah.
house. It's like you don't need to build a house, a good house that you can live in. You don't need the paint. You just need building blocks and so on. But whatever, that's my personal opinion. Good. I want to ask a little bit about early access in general. So
Yeah.
first one thing. It's a good thing that you updated the community every month because I see a lot of early access titles that just don't update the community. And as far as I've seen, you brought out the game, and every month you have been updating at least once. Good. That's a good thing.
I've tried to update it every week, but there are some difficulties. You look at some changes that you make,
Mm-hmm.
and you always thought like maybe two changes later, maybe I should add some more things before I update it. So maybe I'll do it on next week and so on. And that's a frustrating feeling
Yeah.
of showing something to people
Yeah.
and it's very easier in early access than published game right on
Yeah.
because
The
it's
expectations
very
are
yeah
are different.
yeah
Yeah.
and early access is good because you can figure out the people opinion on it in a process and you can
Get feedback basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, you can cover some gaps and so on. And there are not so fatal mistakes because you're always in a dialogue with people,
Yeah.
and that's cool. And for indies, it's very good thing because there are not as many ways to get the community together.
That's correct.
I've tried to gather some people on Twitter or on Reddit, but it's very difficult. And
Yep.
I'm continue to trying that, but it's nobody knows how to do that.
Yeah.
And even the ones who have a large communities, they
They have no
even
clue.
yeah how they succeed.
Yeah.
So it's very different and also a very hard job to get the community
Yeah.
and make a good game. So you must to be good and in marketing and in game development, and that's hard.
Yeah.
And the early access is helps in that way because people see the game. I'm a very big fan of refunds because people are not afraid to buy games anymore.
Yeah.
I live in a country there where is no such culture of paying for software
Okay.
for games and so on. And Refunds and Steam make a very big job to bring people to this market to stop pirating anything and so on because they are they feel that they money are safe here because
Yeah.
they always can refund it and so on. They know what they paying for.
Yeah.
Um, and Alexis is part of this politics. I think you can buy it, you can refund it, but you can stay and you can discuss some things that you're trying to uh, make people make the game better.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's basically my point. One big problem I have with early access is
Yeah.
accountability, which is basically you can release something and never get out of early access, even though the game is finished or the game or everyone has moved on. There's no system right now in which like uh, after 1 year of no updates, Steam says game cancelled, nobody can buy it, all the money has been refunded, whatever. So how would you solve the accountability issue? What do you think we could do, maybe as a community and maybe a Steam, to solve the accountability issue?
Oh, that's a hard question. Is it a is it a problem at all? Because I know if I stop updating my game, I will have no money at all. So if you try to get some money, you have to update it and release it, because the release gets you a very big views in a store.
Yeah.
If you publish it in early access, you almost have no views at all. It's not. It can be featured. It's not on the front page and so on. So I don't know the people who make advantage on it.
Yeah.
I understand people who make games in early access and never update it, but I think that they not getting too much money from it.
Yeah. That's true.
So it's more those problem, not players' problem, maybe. In my information.
Yeah, I think it's more of a Steam problem because they have no rules which state you have to make updates
Yeah,
every 3 months, and if you don't make updates after 1 year, we just cancel the game automatically. There's no like automatic system which basically says game has not been worked on, game cancelled.
so it's
There's no such thing, and that's and it's like
yeah,
it molds the perception from the customers, because from the numbers I'm seeing, a lot
yeah,
of a lot of indie early access, a lot of early access titles. Um, let's say there's a lot that's still in development. If we subtract like 2 years development flat, then there's still a lot, like over 50% are still in early access. If you go back 2 years. Um,
yeah,
so I don't know. I don't know if it's a big problem because my research is not complete, but it's definitely one of the big issues, top three big issues. It's accountability. There's no way to say you have to finish this game, or we will cancel it. Yeah, but that's another topic for another time maybe. Let's talk a little bit more about the game more. So what you do is basically climb a tower and try to shoot your way to the enemies and try to reach the, if I understand correctly, the Hyperspire, where presumably a genie resides. Is that correct?
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
So
That's
how many stores high are you planning to make the tower?
how many what?
Stores. How many levels?
Oh, the whole game is about four levels, and each level is consist of 4 floors.
Okay.
The floors, the level is instance, is a location, and when you go from one level to another, there is a short cutscene, the level loading screen, and so on. So if you look up, you can see the whole level of the tower, and there will be 4 levels in the final version of the game.
Okay.
For now, it's 3 levels. Each level is on each level is a big boss, which is gate to the another level.
Okay.
And each level have a unique theme of some people who lives in that tower have their own motivation to stay there, and some technical devices to stay at that height, and so on.
So you can talk to
Uh,
some people too.
right now you can't, but there will be a short locations between those levels, not with shooting, but with some interactive cutscenes,
Okay.
which is totally connected with a whole story of
Okay.
the main character and what she doing there.
Okay. Now that I'm talking about how Hypertowers, because it's basically the world is basically everything is gone and you just have those towers. Do you get, was a little bit of inspiration Warhammer 40K, like the Hive
Oh,
cities?
I don't know exactly about Hive cities, but I've heard that everything was in Warhammer 40K. So
Yeah, because it
um,
really reminded me. Oh, this is a hive city, basically, like a bunch,
yeah,
like a huge city with a bunch of humans, and they're fighting, in the midst of it. Yeah. That was an interesting connection because there's another game called Ubermosh, and if you know that,
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
and Ubermosh is basically also in the 40k universe, and they even have psychers and so on. So yeah, it's very interesting how many indie devs get inspired by the Warhammer 40k lore, or there's
Uh, uh,
similarities in there.
I think the Warhammer lore is something like Simpsons. You
Yeah.
can just make a new thing
Yeah,
that wasn't in Warhammer.
Warhammer
Uh,
already did it.
it's almost like Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy settings.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
it's very huge. It has very many editions and so on. Um, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I'm always surprised is how a one man team can basically make a whole game by themselves. And
So it's yeah.
before 2001, you made Behold. How was the jump between the 2.5D arcade shooter and then going 3D and then FPS?
It was brilliant. Behold, I made Behold with my friend who make all the graphics,
Mm-hmm.
all the pixel art and sprites and effects and so on. And my part is coding and game design.
Okay.
And the Behold game is totally inspired by Ubermosh. I was playing Ubermosh and was just like, whoa, it's a game about two buttons, but it's so dynamic, so cool. Maybe I can manage and make my first commercial product. Maybe it will be that little, that tiny, but it will be done. It takes like 9 months to finish the whole.
Yeah.
Uh, After it, I was experimenting with 2D games with 3D graphics. I've had a game which was called Tower. It was top-down shooter, but with some 3D environment and so on. You can find it on each, but it's not finished, and I think it won't be finished at all. It's not on Steam and so on. It's like a free prototype on each.
Okay.
And then when I canceled Tor's Road, I started to think if there are a lot of 3D graphics, maybe I'll start to make a 3D game because the main skill I've got on Tor's Road was procedural
Mm-hmm.
generator algorithm, and it's quite simple to get it in full 3D from 2D space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter what kind of what's the number of dimensions you have to procedurally generate levels.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very beautiful um, way to create levels.
Yeah.
And I have this algorithm. I've got some 3D controller from Unity standard assets
Mm-hmm.
and start to rewrite it because it's pretty damn. It was pretty damn bad in standard assets. If you look to the standard assets code, it's very ugly. I don't know how they write it. Oh, it's very bad.
Okay.
And I start to rewrite it one part to another. So I look at the jumps and rewrite jumps. Then I start the shooting mechanic and rewrite the shooting mechanic and so on. It slightly start getting good and gets good for me. I've started to enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
movement and jumping, and then get it merged to the level generator, and that's how it started
Okay.
uh, with the tower.
Yeah, procedural generation is like a two-edged sword for me. At the one side, I see that like, yeah, every time you will have a new version of the same game if you want, but at some point it gets on my nerves. I'm playing through Enter the Gungeon right now, and
Yeah.
that game is completely, not completely, but they have it's also procedure generated with basic assets. the main problem with Enter the Gungeon is consistency. So you can have a run in which you get everything you want, and the next run is complete. It's complete bollocks because you get nothing. You don't get a weapon or anything. So yeah, it's difficult.
I'm sorry, I've had some issues with network.
Yeah,
Do you hear
no,
me?
yeah, I hear you. No, what I was saying is like inconsistency. The game's a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah.
So one run can be very very good and can be happy. The next run you can fail, and the next run fail again. The next run fail again. So the rate of failure, not failure, the rate of in which you get like consistent gameplay is way too low. Even if you get better and better, and I'm getting better and better, and you're enjoying yourself because you're doing great job all by yourself without any help, it's not fun. At some point, it's just tedious, especially the bosses because they have such a huge pool, and if you just
Oh yeah.
just attacking them with the stand-up weapon from every character, it takes forever, and it's not fun. So I'm like, yeah, it's good at some point, but at some point, like there's like, if you look at the graph, the fun is like it goes up, 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 and then it suddenly goes down at some point. After you understand every game mechanic and after you understand how it works, if you can't get through, even though you understand everything and you're trying to do everything right, and the game just wants to kill you, then it's not fun anymore. It's just like, yeah, it's a challenge. And you can see that actually by the amount of players that actually finish the game. I think it's
Yeah.
5% finished the 4 characters. And that's a very, very low. It's a very, very low number. But that's my personal opinion. I think procedure generation can help and can be a good tool for making a bigger content for a smaller team. You can see that like No Man's Sky or something like that.
Uh, I've tried to enter a Gungeon too, and I blame the devs of Enter a Gungeon and
Mm-hmm.
not Precision Generate, because it's not like I've made it better, but I know the games that is more defined in the challenge that brings a procedural generation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of Nuclear Throne
Yeah.
by Van Beer and so on, and of Catacomb Kids, which is, by the way, in early access. It's a pretty good game.
Binding of
Uh,
Isaac is also like a similar game.
yeah, and these kind of games, they have some um, determination in the first part
Yeah.
if you got some skills. So if you try to learn the mechanics, there are a lot of them that make you m- make the random content is more easy to get off.
Yeah.
uh, but there are also a Spelunky, which is very deadly on the first levels. So the procedural generation is in Spelunky is quite thrilling.
Yeah.
You can die almost every time, and the first levels is like childbirth rating. So you have to relaunch the game a couple of times to get some uh, good situation to if you want to finish it
Yeah.
in that run. So it's all on devs to make it work.
Yeah.
And also the procedural generation is not only for indies and for small teams. If you look at some recent titles like a Spider-Man from
Oh yeah.
I don't know Sony, they are talking about how they make the huge city, and there are some iteration process.
Yeah.
So they start the procedural generator, which generates some buildings according to the Google Maps,
Yeah.
and then the artists they hand drawn some details, and then the generator is working on some more details and
Yeah.
geometry, and the final cut is with some artists with hand drawn
Yeah.
textures and so on. So it's not it's a good tool for small teams, but it's also a useful situational tool for everybody.
Yeah, I think I understand, and I think that's what I meant. Procedural generation can be used very wrongly. That's what I meant. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can, it can be a big tool and a very helpful tool. But I would say most games that use procedural generation would rather I would rather have them design levels than use procedural generation, because what they are doing is just simply bad. It doesn't work, and it's just
Yeah,
frustrating.
maybe.
I would say rather.
I've tried to to not be such a game.
And then, yeah, yeah, I have another one called Rogue Legacy, and the same thing goes for them. Their overall level is procedure generated or randomly generated, and I would say I would rather have a designed level, because what you're doing here is just frustrating. It's just padding out the game time without really adding to anything. At some point, I understand how the game works, but because the game just says, well, I'm gonna throw traps at you that makes no sense. Well, and that's my personal pet peeve with sometimes misusing the tool. Yeah, whatever. Maybe it was intended. I don't know. I have to ask them someday.
Yeah, I hope you do. I have the same feelings about Rock Legacy.
Yeah.
There are some other game called Unexplored,
Mm-hmm.
and the devs writes a lot about the level design and so on. It's also procedural generated,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also procedural narrative.
Okay.
So when they generate a level, they generate a quests. A way to explore the level, the way you look at through some windows, and
Mm-hmm.
what do you see in them. So those procedural generator is more like a director of a movie, but AI
Okay.
direct. Like in Left 4 Dead, you've got AI director for zombie hordes.
Mm-hmm.
Here you've got a director for the dungeon crawling.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good experience, and I think it's in early access too. But these guys totally working on it and try to make it better and better
Okay.
each time.
I will have to look at that. Yeah, there's a lot out there. Uh, I have been looking in my investigation through your discussion feed, and you seem to answer every question. That's a good thing. And there was one question that I
Yeah.
didn't quite understand. Someone asked which SJW made this. Like, where does this come from? Because I don't understand how he connected your game to a political movement. Because
Oh, everything can be connected to political movement if you try.
but I don't see any connection. It's
um,
like a game
mm,
about a hypertower in Arabian style.
Arabians is very political theme.
Okay.
For now in Europe, I was in Poland like a week ago on a conference called Digital Dragons,
Mm-hmm.
and my Uber driver was telling me about how many Muslims are now in Europe, and it's very dangerous because they hate Christians. And I was like, oh my God, just get me to the point, please. And so on. So, Middle East is very political theme
Okay.
for now, and and the main character is a woman also, and maybe this triggers
Okay.
him to some thoughts, and so on.
Okay.
So,
I just don't see it. I just don't see it. It's like, what is the connection here? Like, what is this? Am I in the wrong film?
it's like the guy who yells liberals for any reason,
Yeah.
or maybe some.
it's not like I'm completely
Republicans.
apolitical. I do have my opinions and I do have my stances, but it's
Yeah.
like you don't need to combine everything. Like okay, which was the last game I played that was completely political? Maybe a game called Run for Cover, which is basically about a government that is corrupt, in which you send your agents to free the place, basically. So that would be
Oh yeah.
that would be political because it's basically talking about dictatorships, so political system, and you're saying as a different country, you're sending agents to free to begin a rebellion. So it's clearly political, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too narrow minded and I can't see it the connection. But
No, no,
yeah.
it's a good side. If you live in some good society, or not a good, a happy society, in some modern and progressive, the political things are very. You haven't got much political things, but if you live in some euphorical state and so on, everything is political,
Mm-hmm.
because just like Orwell said, the 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 freedom is to speak that 2 plus 2 is 4, and
Yeah.
everything is connected with it,
Yeah.
and the authorical political states, they are trying to hide. At first, they try to hide the political truth.
Mm-hmm.
They try to lie about themselves, but it's getting bigger and bigger, because the truth itself, it's totally connected.
Mm-hmm.
If you say one truth, you can connect it with any other truth in the
Oh,
universe.
I understand. It's pseudoscience,
Like
basically.
yeah, maybe it's Wittgenstein philosophy, like neo-positivism and
Okay.
pragmatism, and so on. And if you live in that state, um, every truly statement, it becomes political,
Mm-hmm.
because the freedom of speech is political.
Okay. Yeah, I
Something
have
like
I have to cut myself short because last time on the podcast I went on and ranted on about religion. I don't want to do this.
yeah. Okay.
I have nothing against talking about this because it's interesting, and I think some games can definitely be connected to politics, but I just don't want to spend half an hour talking about this. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah,
Sorry.
I understand the format. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would
Um,
love to talk about it, but I'm just when I start talking about it, it's like it's gonna be on a 1 hour here. And anyways,
okay.
okay, so
If you ever like to discuss it, I'm here every
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So
we can
you can
talk about it.
just call or
Yeah,
write
sure.
me and so on.
We can do that. So just let's just leave that behind. Jump to another topic, last one, I swear,
Yeah.
and that would be advice. I always ask indie devs to like give advice on how to start maybe developing, and in your special case, how to start like an early access title. Like how would an indie dev start developing content?
Oh, okay. I've got some interesting. I think I've got some interesting
Advice?
answer to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My advice is, the game development is a very long race. You have to keep in mind your original idea for a very long time. Then you started it. When you started it, you've got some idea of your ideal game, of what you trying to make, and sometimes it takes years to get it completed. So it's very important to maintain your original idea, your original emotions about the game, and the feeling you're trying to express to people. And it's very hard to to find the references to these emotions, this
Mm-hmm.
concept of your game. And some devs they refers to the other games, but I think this is an incorrect way to make a concept of your game.
Mm-hmm.
They are saying like I'm making a Half-Life with some magic and on a horses.
Mm-hmm.
It will be like Half-Life on a horses, but this don't represent the emotions that you are trying to express to people and get from people and so on. And the emotions is a essential part of it. So I my advice is to keep the references from video clips and from music videos,
Mm-hmm.
like not refer to other games and maybe films because they are similar to your product.
Yeah.
You just making some sequels and not you can't
You're copying the same thing. You're not
yeah
making something
yeah
new.
uh, this narrows your own concept of what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you refers to some video clips like I'm making a game which will bring some emotions like Eminem lose yourself clip,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe Franz Ferdinand, or maybe I don't know any music clip.
Okay.
So if you've got some video which is very abstract, very emotional and so on, you've got some very cool reference that you're trying to make, what you are trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
If you got some video clip like maybe I don't know, maybe Abba or any other
Yeah.
singer, but you've got the emotions, and
Okay.
you can manage how to bring these emotions with some mechanics, with some game tools and so on, with graphics and
Mm-hmm.
also a music. Uh, it's a very freely way to make games
Mm-hmm.
because you are defined of what emotions you're trying to make,
Yeah.
and you are very freely of the way you've making it.
Yeah.
So video clips is my favorite reference tool of making games.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand because basically video games are still art in the end of the day, even though we sell and buy them. Video games in the end are art. So if you don't approach it as art, then probably doing something wrong.
Yeah, maybe. Even if you're making very commercial game like Clash Clans,
It still has
Heroes,
to be art. It still has to be art.
yeah, it's still trying to uh, some to make some emotions
Yeah. Yeah.
from people.
Maybe a little bit predatory since they want the
Yeah,
emotion
yeah.
of get my money. But yeah, still, yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, okay. I think we're done so far. Thank you for answering my questions. I hope I
Thank
wasn't I hope I wasn't too hard on you. And now it's
oh
now it's your time. You can plug your stuff. Make a little bit of an advertisement. I'm going to link everything in the description. The floor is yours.
Oh, I don't have any stuff to plug except my, Twitter account maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or Steam page,
Okay.
something like that. And you can find the game on Steam. It's called 1001st Hypertower. That's simple,
Mm-hmm.
and so on.
Okay. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much. It was the very pleasant experience for me. It was a very nice talk.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to the dev again for coming on the show. I played the game and it's good. It's difficult. I just tried it out for an hour maybe. The only thing that annoyed me was the low amount of ammunition and that you have to conserve your ammunition so harshly. But apparently it's part of the game, so yeah. It's just a small complaint. I would say look out for this one. It's looking pretty good. The full release should be soon. I will probably review it, and then we can have a second round with the developer. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe, comment, like, turn on notification. Take care of yourselves, and have a nice day.